Brian was a player. Everyone in our circle knew he had 3 rules when dating. No girls who were too good, no girls who were too clingy, and definitely not me. When people asked why, he'd casually put out his cigarette and say, "I've watched her grow up since we were kids. I care about her like a little sister. What would I become if I dated her? Well, if you don't want her, can I go after her?" He'd laugh. "She's too stubborn. It's me or no one. She won't say yes to you." But this time he was wrong. When I overheard this conversation, Ryan and I hadn't been in contact for a long time. Over the years, we developed an unspoken understanding. When he was dating someone, we absolutely wouldn't have any contact. After all, everyone knew I liked him. We had to avoid any misunderstandings. He was afraid his girlfriends would get upset. I stood there stunned, going to breathe. It took me a while to realize. I'd been openly in love with him for 5 years. I checked my phone. Our last conversation was 2 months ago. I texted, "Hey, I'm outside your place. Brought you some pastries I made. When will you be back?" He'd sent a voice message only 2 seconds long. In his usual tone, steady, breathe, soon. He never came back. I stood outside as it started pouring rain. I wouldn't give up, sending him over 10 messages and calling several times. No response. I panicked, worried something had happened to him on the road. Just as I was about to call his assistant, I saw a social media post from my college roommate. Her name was Jessica. We'd fought freshman year. Since then we couldn't stand each other and barely spoke. After graduation, we never talked at all. She had no idea I knew the famous Ryan Williams of North City. She posted, finally holding his hand. The photo showed 2 hands clasped together, taken inside a car. I recognized that car. I also recognized the pillow she was leaning against. I put it there myself. I knew that hand too. There was a tiny mole on the index finger. It was Ryan's. Jessica was beautiful and bright. Exactly Ryan's type. It wasn't surprising they'd met and gotten together. But I still couldn't help wondering why his girlfriends changed like a revolving door. Why couldn't it be me? Was I that terrible? Those messages I'd sent him. He never replied. That was our last contact. After they started dating, Jessica posted about Ryan every day. She said he was genuine, wealthy, and gave her everything she wanted. He'd pick her up from work, carry her bags. All her photos, he looked patient and caring. He'd track her period, text her reminders to avoid old foods. When she'd reply with an emoji, he'd send one back. More than that, no matter how busy he was, if she needed something, he was always available. After a while, I became numb to it. I even found myself comparing. He was definitely more attentive to Jessica than his previous girlfriends. And they'd lasted longer too. This feeling continued until today, when I stood outside this private room and felt something snap in my mind. So he really did see me as just a little sister. I suddenly thought maybe I didn't have to have Ryan after all. I looked at the closed door in front of me. Then I looked down and removed Ryan from my pinned conversations. My friend walked over from nearby, spotting me. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Where did you disappear to?" I smiled. "Just took a phone call. Let's go." My friend didn't ask more questions and walked with me. She gossiped as we walked. "I just ran into the manager here. He said some big shot is celebrate his girlfriend's birthday today. So jealous." I nodded, my voice calm. "Yeah, so jealous though. Come to think of it, he'd celebrated my birthday before too. Booked the best venue in North City. Sent invitations everywhere. Spent almost 7 figures in one day. Did you say he wasn't thoughtful?" "No, but he only saw me as a little sister." After deciding to give up on Ryan, when I saw Jessica's lovey-dovey posts, I could scroll past them without changing expression, until I ran into them at the mall. Ryan was helping Jessica pick out a ring. After choosing one, he put his arm around her waist, his tone casual. "Come here. Let me put it on you." Jessica nodded with a bright smile. "Okay." Watching this scene, I suddenly remembered how other girls had wanted Ryan to buy them rings before, but he'd always say coldly, "Some things aren't for you to fantasize about. You know that, right? Let's break up." It seemed he really was ready to settle down for Jessica. I pressed my lips together and was about to turn away when I heard Jessica ask another question. "By the way, I heard people say that girl likes you." Ryan paused, frowning. "Who's been gossiping to you? Don't misunderstand. I don't have those feelings for her." Jessica laughed a couple times, then took out her phone and scrolled through it. "I'm not trying to interrogate you. I just wanted to ask, is the girl, you know, the one who looks like this?" Ryan glanced at it. He raised an eyebrow in surprise. "How do you have her photo?" "Oh, we were college roommates. We're all friends. So maybe we can take her out to dinner sometime." Liking someone isn't her fault. If I didn't know Jessica's true nature, I would have thought she was defending me right now. But I knew better. Taking me to dinner was fake. Wanting to humiliate me was the real goal. Ryan made a sound. "Sure. Whatever you want." Then 2 minutes later, I got a text from him, just a question mark. This was the first message he'd sent me in 2 months. Before it was always like this. No matter what he sent, I'd rack my brains trying to find topics to talk about. But this time, looking at the chat screen on my phone, I instinctively typed 2 lines, then calmly deleted them, word by word. I told myself, forget it. There's nothing worth replying to. But I didn't expect that same night I'd run into him face to face. The guy who told Ryan he wanted to pursue me was named Jake. I wasn't really familiar with him. We'd only talked a few times. But somehow he got my contact info. He actually called me saying he wanted to take me to a movie. Come on, give me a chance. I remember, right? You really like the male lead in this one? I did like him. In high school, I had posters and postcards of this actor all over my room. Ryan had seen them once when he came to visit. That same night, he tattled to my mom saying I wasn't focusing on my studies. He couldn't understand. Is he better looking than me? Your taste is really thinking about it now. My taste really was questionable for liking him so long. I held my phone for a while before speaking. Okay, send me the time and place. Honestly though, I'd never imagined Jake would want to pursue me. Since childhood he'd been that other people kid. Never dated, excellent grades. Undoubtedly a golden boy. At the movie theater, Jake went to buy drinks while I went in alone first. But what a coincidence. Sitting right next to me were Ryan and Jessica. The moment she saw me, Jessica looked at Ryan and surprised. What's she doing here? Did you invite her? You should have told me. I haven't seen her in ages. You could have reminded me to prepare a gift for her. She said this very graciously and politely. But Ryan's the ocean darkened. He looked up at me and reminded me I have a girlfriend. I nodded. I know. I didn't just know. I'd witnessed your whole love story. Through your girlfriend's social media posts. And why are you here? He took out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. Leave the theater now. I'll have my assistant pick you up. Go wait outside. He's pretty far away. Probably won't get here for half an hour. I was speechless. So you want me to wait outside for half an hour? What else? Everyone knows how you feel about me. If you keep following me around, my girlfriend will get the wrong idea. The cinema lights dimmed, and I stood there frozen, watching Ryan's face harden into an expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. That cold, dismissive look he gave everyone who wasn't worth his time. I'd just never been on the receiving end of it. Leave the theater now, he repeated, his voice low and final. I'll have my assistant pick you up. Jessica nestled closer to him, her manicured fingers playing with the sleeve of his jacket. She smiled at me, that perfect, practiced smile she'd perfected in college whenever she wanted to make someone feel small. Ryan, don't be so harsh, she said sweetly. She probably didn't even know we'd be here. Right. She tilted her head at me, blinking those long lashes. Ryan's jaw tightened. She shouldn't be here regardless. I looked at the two of them. Jessica's designer bag, Ryan's watch that cost more than my annual rent. The way they fit together like two puzzle pieces made of the same cold marble. Something inside me that had been straining for 5 years finally snapped. You know what? I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. You're right. I shouldn't be here. I turned and walked up the aisle, not running, not crying, just walking. Behind me, I heard Jessica's soft laugh and Ryan's murmured something I couldn't make out. Jake was just returning from the concession stand. 2 sodas in hand and popcorn balanced on his arm. He saw my face and stopped. Hey, what happened? Nothing, I said. Can we sit somewhere else? Different row. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded, shifted the popcorn, and followed me to the back corner of the theater, 3 rows behind where Ryan and Jessica sat. I could still see the back of Ryan's head. The way Jessica kept leaning over to whisper in his ear. The way his shoulders relaxed under her touch. The movie started. I didn't watch a single frame. Jake didn't try to talk to me. He just sat there, occasionally glancing over, and at one point, maybe 40 minutes in, he reached over and gently took my hand. I let him hold it. Not because I felt anything. Because I was too numb to pull away. The movie ended. The lights came up. I quickly pulled my hand from Jake's, suddenly self-conscious. Sorry, I muttered. I wasn't. Don't apologize, Jake said easily. He stood, stretched, and offered me a genuine smile. Tough night. Something like that. We walked out together, and I deliberately kept my eyes forward, not checking to see where Ryan and Jessica had gone. In the lobby, Jake paused. Want to get coffee? Or something stronger? I almost said no. Almost made an excuse and fled back to my apartment to curl up in bed and replay every humiliating moment of the last 5 years. But then I thought about Ryan's face. The way he'd looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. A pest to be removed. No, I said. Let's get that drink. We found a quiet bar 2 blocks from the theater. Dim lighting, vinyl booths, the kind of place where nobody looked too hard at anyone else. Jake ordered whiskey for both of us. Okay, he said leaning back. Want to tell me what happened in there? Or do you want to pretend I didn't see anything? I swirled my glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light. You know Ryan Williams? Everyone knows Ryan Williams. Jake's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. North City's golden boy. Real estate, investments, that whole thing. I've been in love with him for 5 years. Jake didn't flinch, didn't laugh, didn't even look surprised. I know, he said quietly. I blinked. You know, everyone in our circle knows. Has known for years. He took a sip of his drink. The guy sitting 3 rows ahead of us with the beautiful girlfriend? That's who you were looking at the whole time, wasn't it? I wanted to deny it. Wanted to pretend I'd been watching the screen like everyone else. But what was the point? Yeah, I admitted. That's him. And the girl? Jessica. My college roommate. The one who, I stopped. Shook my head. Doesn't matter. They're together now. They've been together for months. I'm tired, Jake. I'm so tired of wanting someone who looks at me like I'm his little sister. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached across the table and covered my hand with his. Then stop, he said simply. Stop wanting him. It's not that easy. Sure it is. He squeezed my fingers. You just decide. Every day, every hour, every minute. You decide not to want him anymore. And eventually, your heart gets the message. I stared at him. That's very philosophical for a guy I've only talked to 4 times. He laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded. Maybe I've been rehearsing it. For when I finally got a chance to take you out. The whiskey was warm in my chest, loosening something tight and painful that had been there for years. You barely know me, I said. I know I like you, he replied. I know you're funny and smart and you don't take yourself too seriously. I know you bake pastries that everyone talks about for weeks. I know you made Ryan Williams carry your backpack in high school because you said it was too heavy, and he actually did it. My breath caught. How do you know that? Because I was there. different school, but my cousin went to yours. He told me about the girl who made the rich kid her personal pack mule. Jake grinned. I thought you sounded interesting back then. I still do. I didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever said things like this to me, not about me, not in a way that felt real. I'm a mess, I finally said. That's okay. Jake finished his drink and signaled for another round. I'm patient. We stayed at the bar until nearly midnight, talking about nothing and everything. Jake told me about his work, something in tech that I only half understood, and I told him about my bakery job and the dream of opening my own place someday. He walked me home, hands in his pockets, not trying to hold my hand or kiss me goodnight. At my door, he just smiled. Same time tomorrow? I have work. Then after work. I hesitated. Then, for reasons I couldn't quite explain, I nodded. Yeah, okay. He left, and I went inside, locked the door, and leaned against it with my eyes closed. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out half expecting, half dreading, a message from Ryan. It was Jessica. Hey girl. So fun running into you tonight. Can't believe we haven't caught up properly. Coffee sometime? Red heart. I stared at the screen. 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Ryan says hi, by the way. He's so sweet. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe. Right. Because Ryan had never, not once in 5 years, asked if I'd gotten home safe. Not after late nights, not after parties, not after anything. I typed back a short response. Got home fine. Thanks. Then I opened Jessica's Instagram, something I'd sworn I would stop doing. And there it was, a new post less than an hour old. A photo of Ryan's profile, half in shadow, the warm lighting of some expensive restaurant casting gold across his features. The caption read, date night with my favorite person. He booked out the whole place just for us. I'm so spoiled. 27 comments in the first minute. Hearts, fire emojis, relationship goals. I locked my phone and threw it onto the couch. Then I went to the bathroom, looked at my reflection in the mirror, and said out loud, you are going to stop looking at her posts. You are going to stop waiting for him to text. You are going to live your own life. My reflection looked unconvinced. 3 days passed. 3 days of not checking Jessica's Instagram. 3 days of not rereading old conversations with Ryan. 3 days of Jake picking me up after work, taking me to dinner, making me laugh at stupid jokes. 3 days of me waiting for the other shoe to drop. On the 4th day, it did. I was at work, frosting a batch of cupcakes for a wedding order, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it, expecting Jake's daily how's your day going? It wasn't Jake. You free tonight? Ryan. My heart did something stupid. Lurched, stuttered, flipped over in my chest like a dying fish. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I put the phone down, finished frosting the cupcakes, and washed my hands. I made myself a cup of tea. I counted to 100. Then I picked up the phone again. What for? I typed. His response came almost immediately. Want to talk. Something about you and Jake. I frowned. What about me and Jake? We've been on exactly 4 dates. 4 very casual, entirely uncommitted dates. The last one had ended with Jake kissing my forehead and telling me to sleep well. What about us? Just come. My place. 8 p.m. Not a question. An order. The old me would have dropped everything. Would have changed clothes 3 times, reapplied makeup twice, shown up early with pastries and hope. The new me, the one who'd been practicing deciding not to want him, typed back, busy tonight. Can't. 3 dots. Appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then fine. Tomorrow. 7. I didn't respond. An hour later, another message. Tomorrow. 7. Don't be late. I still didn't respond. At 7:30, my phone rang. Ryan's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. At 8:15, a single text. This isn't like you. No. No, it wasn't. The old me would have been there with bells on. The old me would have been grateful for any crumb of attention he deigned to throw my way. But I was trying to be someone new. I didn't go the next day either. Or the day after that. On the 3rd day, Jessica posted again. A photo of a bouquet of roses so large it needed its own table. The caption. He says he's stressed about work. I say roses fix everything. I scrolled past it without stopping. That was progress. But on the 4th day, Ryan showed up at my bakery. I was behind the counter, apron dusted with flour, hair pulled back in a messy bun, when the bell above the door jingled. I looked up with my automatic customer service smile. The smile died on my face. Ryan stood in the doorway, filling it the way he filled every room he entered. Tailored black coat, sharp jaw, eyes that missed nothing. He scanned the space, the pink walls, the glass display cases, the chalkboard menu I'd painted myself, and then his gaze landed on me. 5 days, he said. You've ignored me for 5 days. The woman I was helping, a regular named Mrs. Chun, looked between us with open curiosity. I'll give you a minute, Mrs. Chun said, and scurried to the other side of the shop. I set down the pastry bag I'd been holding. I'm working, Ryan. I can see that. He walked toward the counter, hands in his pockets, unhurried. You look different. I'm wearing an apron. Not the apron. He tilted his head, studying me. Something else. You're not. He stopped, frowning slightly, like he couldn't find the right word. What do you want, Ryan? He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, and turned the screen toward me. It was a photo of me and Jake. From last night. We'd been leaving a restaurant, and Jake had his hand on the small of my back. I was laughing at something he'd said. Where did you get that? That doesn't matter. Ryan put the phone away. What matters is that you're seeing him. Jake. Yes, Jake. The guy who told me he wanted to pursue you. Ryan's voice had gone low, controlled. The guy I said wouldn't have a chance. Something cold settled in my stomach. You told him he didn't have a chance? Because you've been in love with me for 5 years. Ryan said it like it was a fact. Like the weather. Everyone knows. You know. I know. And yet you're here. I said slowly. In my bakery. Telling me who I can and can't see. I'm not telling you anything. I'm asking, he stopped. Ran a hand through his hair. It was a gesture I'd seen him make 100 times. Usually when something was bothering him that he couldn't control. You're asking what? I'm asking if you're serious about him. I stared at him. The man I'd loved for half a decade. The man who'd dated a revolving door of beautiful women while I stood on the sidelines, waiting, hoping, praying he'd finally see me. Why do you care? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. The bakery's ambient music, some soft jazz playlist, filled the silence. Because you're important to me, he finally said. Not like that. But you've always been there. And if you're going to throw that away for some guy you barely know. Throw what away exactly? My voice came out sharper than I intended. What have you ever given me, Ryan? What have we ever had? His eyes widened slightly. I'd never spoken to him like this before. I'd always been soft, accommodating, endlessly understanding. We have, he stopped. Looked lost for the first time since I'd known him. We have our history. Growing up together. You know me better than anyone. Do I? I leaned against the counter, suddenly exhausted. Because I thought I did. I thought I knew that you didn't date girls who were too good, or too clingy, or, definitely not me. I thought I knew you watched out for me like a little sister. I thought I knew you'd never see me the way I wanted you to. Ryan's jaw worked. That's not. But here's what I've realized. I continued, and my voice was steady now, calmer than I felt. I don't actually know you at all. I know the version of you I built up in my head. The one who would eventually wake up and realize I was right in front of him. But that's not real. It is real. Is it? I gestured around the bakery, my bakery, the one I'd built with my own hands and late nights in tears. You've been dating Jessica for months. You've never once asked how I felt about that. You never once considered that maybe watching you fall in love with someone else might hurt. Ryan's expression flickered. I didn't think. No, I agreed. You didn't. The bell above the door jingled again. Jake walked in, still in his work clothes, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. He took one look at Ryan, then at me, and his easy smile faded. Am I interrupting? No, I said. Yes, Ryan said at the same time. Jake set the coffees on the counter and turned to face Ryan. He was shorter than Ryan, less obviously wealthy, less everything, but he didn't back down. You're Ryan Williams, Jake said. The guy who wouldn't give her the time of day for 5 years. I gave her plenty of time. Not the way she wanted. Jake's voice was quiet, but firm. Not the way she deserved. Ryan's hands clenched at his sides. This doesn't concern you. She's my girlfriend, Jake said. I nearly choked. We hadn't defined anything. Hadn't even talked about exclusivity. But the word, girlfriend, landed in the space between us like a stone dropping into still water. Ryan looked at me. Is that true? I opened my mouth, closed it, looked at Jake, who was watching me with something soft and hopeful in his eyes. Yes, I said. It's true. The word felt strange in my mouth. New. Untested. But it also felt right. Ryan stood there for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he nodded once, curt and final. Fine, he said. If that's what you want. He turned and walked out, the bell chiming behind him. The silence he left behind was deafening. Jake didn't ask me about what I'd said. Didn't push. He just handed me my coffee and got to work helping me finish the wedding cupcakes. We worked in companionable silence for an hour. Then, when the last cupcake was frosted and the shop was clean, he leaned against the counter and looked at me. So, he said. Girlfriend. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. You said that. Not me. You didn't correct it. You caught me off guard. Jake smiled. That warm, genuine smile that made him look younger than his years. Do you want to correct it now? I thought about it. Really thought about it, not the way I usually did. Racing through possibilities, weighing outcomes, calculating risks. No, I said. I don't. Jake's smile widened. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something clean and subtle, nothing like Ryan's expensive, overpowering scent. Then I have a question for you, he said. What's that? Will you be my girlfriend? Officially? Not because Ryan showed up and made you say it. Because you want to. I looked at him, at his kind eyes and patient hands, and the way he'd sat beside me in that dark theater, holding my hand without demanding anything. Yes, I said. I want to. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and entirely uncomplicated. Nothing like the dramatic, heart-stopping kisses I'd imagined with Ryan. Better somehow. Realer. When we pulled apart, my phone was buzzing. Jessica. So Ryan told me about your new boyfriend. We should double date. This Saturday. I know this amazing place. I showed the message to Jake. His eyebrows rose. Double date? With your college roommate and the guy you've been in love with for 5 years. The guy I was in love with. I corrected. Same difference. He read the message again. She seems eager. I thought about Jessica's true nature. The way she'd smile to my face and tear me down behind my back. The way she'd stolen my notes freshman year, then accused me of stealing hers. The way she'd dated the guy she knew I liked in sophomore year, just to prove she could. She's not eager, I said. She's hunting. Hunting what? Proof that I'm still not over Ryan. Proof that he still matters to me. Proof that she's won. Jake considered this. Then he took my phone and typed out a response before I could stop him. Sure. Saturday. Send the address. I gaped at him. What are you doing? Giving her what she wants. He handed back my phone. A chance to prove herself. Against what? I'm not going to pretend to be in love with Ryan. You don't have to. Jake's smile turned slightly mischievous. You just have to be happy. With me. So happy that she can't stand it. I stared at him. That's diabolical. I prefer strategic. Despite everything, the anxiety twisting in my stomach, the residual ache of walking away from Ryan, the fear that I was making a terrible mistake, I laughed. You're something else, Jake. I know, he said. That's why you like me. Saturday arrived faster than I was ready for. I spent the morning in a state of low-grade panic, cycling through my closet 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress. Nothing too dressy, nothing too casual. Jake picked me up at 6, wearing a blazer over a plain white t-shirt. You look nice, he said. You look like you're going to a business casual funeral. He laughed. That's the look I was going for. The restaurant Jessica had chosen was one of those places where the menu didn't have prices. If you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. The lighting was dim, the tables were spaced far apart, and everyone spoke in hushed, reverent tones. Ryan and Jessica were already there when we arrived. Jessica rose to greet me with their kisses and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You look so cute, she said, the word dripping with condescension. I love what you've done with your hair. I'd worn it in the same ponytail I'd worn since high school. Thanks. Ryan stood more slowly. He looked at me, then at Jake, and his expression was carefully blank. Jake, he said, extending his hand. Ryan. Jake shook it, firm and brief. Thanks for having us. I didn't have you. Jessica did. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. We sat down, Jessica next to Ryan, me next to Jake, and a waiter appeared immediately to take our drink orders. So, Jessica said, leaning forward with her chin propped on her hands. Tell me everything. How did you two meet? Jake glanced at me. I've known about her for years, but we officially met at a party a few months ago. A party? Jessica's eyes lit up. Which party? One of Ryan's, Jake said casually. The one at his penthouse. I was there with a friend. Ryan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He remembered. I could see it in the way his fingers pressed into his wine glass. How romantic, Jessica cooed. And you've been dating ever since? More or less, I said. We're still getting to know each other. She makes me pastries, Jake added. Best damn pastries I've ever had. Jessica laughed, a bright, fake sound. Oh, I know. She used to bake in our dorm all the time. The whole hallway would smell like cookies. Ryan, didn't she bake for you once? Ryan took a long drink of his wine. She baked for everyone. Not like she baked for you, Jessica pressed. Remember that birthday party? The one where she made that 7-layer cake? I remembered. I'd spent 3 days on that cake, had burned my wrist on a sugar thermometer, and cried over a collapsed tear. Ryan had taken one bite, said tastes fine, and spent the rest of the night talking to some girl in a red dress who'd shown up uninvited. I remember, Ryan said quietly. Jessica's smile sharpened. Anyway. She turned back to me. I'm just so happy you finally moved on. It's healthy, you know, not pining after someone who doesn't feel the same way. The words landed like small, precise knife cuts. Jake's hand found mine under the table. She's not pining anymore, he said smoothly. She's got me now. Ryan set down his wine glass with a click. Can we order? Dinner was a masterclass in passive aggression. Jessica asked pointed questions about my job, my living situation, my plans for the future. She talked at length about her new promotion, her recent vacation in the Maldives, the way Ryan had surprised her with a car for no reason at all. Through it all, Ryan sat like a statue, contributing the bare minimum to conversation. He didn't look at me, not directly, but I felt his attention like a weight, pressing against my skin. Jake, to his credit, was unfazed. He answered Jessica's questions with easy charm, redirected her barbs with gentle humor, and kept his hand on mine through the entire meal. At one point, Jessica excused herself to the bathroom. The moment she was gone, the energy at the table shifted. Ryan leaned forward. You're wearing the necklace I gave you. I reached up unconsciously, touching the small silver pendant at my throat. He'd given it to me for my 18th birthday. A delicate thing with a tiny star, because I'd once told him I wanted to reach the stars. It's just a necklace, I said. It's mine. It was a gift. That makes it mine. Ryan's eyes flicked to Jake, then back to me. You used to wear it every day. I used to do a lot of things. She's not yours anymore, Jake said quietly. She was never yours to begin with. Ryan's expression darkened. You don't know anything about us. I know you had 5 years to choose her. And you didn't. The words hung in the air, brutal in their simplicity. Ryan looked like he'd been slapped. Jessica chose that moment to return, all smiles and obliviousness. Did I miss something? No, Ryan said, standing abruptly. We're leaving. Oh, Jessica's smile faltered. But we haven't had dessert. Now. He threw cash on the table, more than enough to cover everything, and walked out without another word. Jessica scrambled after him, throwing us an apologetic look that was pure performance. And then they were gone. Jake let out a long breath. Well, that was fun. I stared at the empty doorway. My heart was pounding, but not the way it used to. Not with longing or hope or desperate, aching want. It was pounding with anger. He has no right, I said. No right to what? No right to act like he cares. Like he has some claim on me. He spent years treating me like an afterthought. And now, because someone else wants me, suddenly I matter. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, people are like that. They don't know what they have until it's gone. I was never his to lose. No, Jake agreed. You weren't. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. But here's the thing. He's going to realize that. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. And when he does, he's going to try to get you back. I looked at him. You seem very calm about that. I'm not calm. His smile was rueful. I'm terrified. But I trust you. Trust me to do what? Trust you to choose what's best for you, even if that's not me. The honesty in his voice undid something in my chest. This was what real affection looked like. Not possession, not obsession, but genuine care for someone else's happiness. I don't know what's best for me, I admitted. I've been wrong about so many things for so long. Then we'll figure it out together. He stood and offered me his hand. Come on, let's get out of here. I know a place that serves pie and doesn't care if you cry into it. I took his hand. I'm not going to cry. Optional. But the pie is mandatory. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of Jake and me building something real. 2 weeks of me not checking Jessica's social media, not waiting for Ryan's texts, not lying awake at night wondering what might have been. 2 weeks of almost peace. Then Ryan showed up at my apartment at midnight. I was in my pajamas, eating cereal out of the box and watching bad reality TV. The knock made me jump. Nobody visited me this late. Nobody visited me at all, except Jake, and he had a key. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Ryan stood in the hallway coatless, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. His tie was loose. His eyes were red-rimmed. I opened the door a crack. It's midnight. I know. Jessica's going to be upset. Jessica and I broke up. The words landed like a thunderclap. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but his expression was deadly serious. What happened? He let out a breath that was almost a laugh. She happened. I happened. Everything happened. He leaned against the doorframe. Can I come in? I should have said no. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to say no. But I'd loved this man for 5 years. And old habits, it turned out, were harder to break than I'd thought. I stepped aside. Ryan walked into my small apartment, looking around like he'd never seen it before. He had dozens of times over the years. But maybe he was seeing it differently now. You still have the cactus I gave you, he said, nodding at the windowsill. You gave me that cactus 6 years ago. It's practically a family member now. I didn't think you kept things. I keep everything. He turned to face me. In the dim light of my living room, he looked younger, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. She told me everything, he said quietly. Jessica. Last night, we got into a fight, and she just unloaded. All the things she'd done. The notes she stole in college. The guy she dated sophomore year. The one she knew you liked. The Instagram posts. How she made sure you'd see them. How she made sure you'd know she was winning. I sat down on the couch, suddenly shaky. Why are you telling me this? Because I didn't know. Ryan sat across from me, on the edge of the coffee table. I didn't know any of it. She was so different when we were alone. Kind, attentive, loving. I thought she was genuine. She's good at that. But you knew. You knew the whole time, and you never said anything. What was I supposed to say? Your girlfriend is evil? You would have thought I was jealous. Weren't you? The question hung in the air. I could have lied, could have deflected, changed the subject, protected myself. But I was tired of protecting myself from Ryan. Yes, I said. I was jealous. I was jealous of every single girl you ever dated. I was jealous of the way you looked at them, the way you touched them, the way you gave them everything I wanted. I was jealous and I was hurt, and I was angry, at you, at them, at myself for being stupid enough to wait around. Ryan's face crumpled. You're not stupid. I was. I am. But I'm trying not to be anymore. Why didn't you ever tell me? 5 years, and you never once just said. I did. I interrupted. I told you in 100 different ways. I baked you cakes. I stayed up late listening to you talk about your deals. I went to your parties even when I didn't know anyone. I was always there, Ryan. Always. And you never saw me. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. Let him feel the calluses from baking, the slight tremor I couldn't quite control. I see you now, he said. Too late. The words came out before I could stop them. Ryan's hand tightened around mine. It doesn't have to be too late. Yes, it does. I pulled my hand back gently. You don't want me, Ryan. You want the idea of me. The girl who's always been there, always loved you, always put you first. But that girl is gone. Where did she go? She grew up. I stood, putting distance between us. She realized she deserved more than being someone's backup plan. Ryan stood too, his expression desperate in a way I'd never seen. You were never my backup plan. I was never your anything. That's the problem. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. For once in his life, Ryan Williams didn't have a response. I should go, he finally said. Yeah, you should. He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the knob. Without turning around, he said, that night, the one at the theater, when I told you to leave, I was wrong. I know. I was scared. You'd never looked at me like that before. Like you were done. And I panicked. Panicking doesn't excuse cruelty. No. He turned to face me, and there were tears in his eyes, actual tears, the first I'd ever seen him shed. It doesn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. I wanted to rage. Wanted to scream that sorry wasn't enough, that 5 years of heartbreak couldn't be erased with one word. But looking at him, broken and unraveling and finally seeing me, I just felt tired. Good night, Ryan. He nodded once. Then he opened the door and walked out. I locked it behind him, leaned against the wood, and cried. The morning after, Jake found me on the couch at 7 the next morning, still in my pajamas, empty cereal box on the floor, eyes swollen from crying. He didn't ask questions. He just kicked off his shoes, sat down beside me, and pulled me into his arms. He came here last night. I said into his chest. I know. I saw his car outside when I drove by. You drove by. I was in the neighborhood. At midnight? Jake's arms tightened around me. I was worried about you. After dinner the other night, the way he looked at you, I had a feeling he wouldn't stay away. I pulled back to look at him. You're not angry? Should I be? He told me he loved me. Jake's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Did he? He said he was sorry. That he'd been wrong. That he wanted another chance. And what did you say? I thought about the conversation. The way Ryan's hands had shaken. The tears in his eyes. The desperate, raw need in his voice. I said it was too late. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he pressed his forehead against mine. Do you mean that? I don't know. The confession came out in a whisper. I've wanted him for so long. 5 years, Jake. That's not nothing. No, he agreed. It's not nothing. But wanting someone isn't the same as loving them. And loving them isn't the same as being with them. I pulled back, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand. He had his chance. He had years of chances. And he never chose me. Until now. Now isn't enough. Jake studied my face for a long time. Then he smiled, that soft, sad, beautiful smile that had become so familiar. You're stronger than you think, he said. You know that. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about feelings. It's about choices. And you just made a really hard one. I leaned into him again, letting his warmth seep into my bones. What if I'm making a mistake? Then we'll deal with it together. Just like that. Just like that. I closed my eyes and listened to his heartbeat, steady, patient, real. Maybe this was what healing felt like. Not forgetting, not erasing, but choosing anyway. Jessica didn't take the breakup quietly. Within hours, her social media was flooded with cryptic posts. Some people only show their true colors when you're no longer useful to them. He'll never be happy with someone as boring as her. The universe has a way of exposing frauds. I didn't need to ask who she was talking about. Jake told me to ignore it. My friends told me to block her. Even my mom, who never got involved in my drama, called to say that girl sounds like trouble. But I couldn't look away. It was like a car crash, horrifying and magnetic all at once. 3 days after the breakup, Jessica showed up at my bakery. She walked in like she owned the place. Head high, designer handbag swinging, sunglasses pushed up into her hair. The few customers in the shop looked up, sensing drama the way animals sense a storm. Hi, she said brightly. We need to talk. I set down the pastry bag. I'm working, Jessica. This will only take a minute. She walked to the counter, her heels clicking against the tile. You think you've won, don't you? I don't think anything. You got him to break up with me. Congratulations. Very subtle. I stared at her. I didn't do anything. He broke up with you because of who you are. And who am I? Someone who lies. Someone who manipulates. Someone who's been competing with me for years over a prize she didn't even want. Jessica's smile turned razor sharp. Oh, I wanted him. I wanted the lifestyle. The money. The status. And I had it. Until you came along with your sad eyes and your homemade pastries, reminding him of all the years you spent following him around like a lost puppy. The words stung, but not as much as they would have a month ago. Then why are you here? I asked. If he's not a prize you wanted, why do you care? Jessica's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just a flash of something raw and ugly. Then it was gone, replaced by her perfect mask. Because I don't lose, she said. And I'm not going to start with you. She turned on her heel and walked out, the bell chiming behind her. The customers in the shop exchanged glances. One of them, an older woman I'd known for years, leaned over to me and said, Honey, that girl is bad news. I know, I said. But knowing and being prepared were two different things. Over the next week, Jessica launched a full-scale campaign. She reached out to mutual friends, painting herself as the victim of Ryan's cruelty and my scheming. She spread rumors that I'd been sleeping with Ryan behind her back, completely false, but juicy enough to circulate. She even called my boss, just to check in, and somehow managed to imply that the bakery might be having health code issues. Nothing stuck. My friends knew me better than that. My boss trusted me. The health inspector showed up for an unannounced visit, and left with a box of free muffins and a clean report. But the damage wasn't in what she accomplished. The damage was in what she reminded me of. Every whisper, every rumor, every sideways glance. It all brought me back to freshman year. To the girl who'd smiled at me while stealing everything I loved. I started having nightmares again. Woke up at 3 in the morning with my heart racing, convinced I'd find another passive-aggressive note slipped under my door. Jake stayed over more often. He didn't push me to talk about it. He just held me when I woke up shaking and made me tea in the morning and kissed my forehead before work. You're safe, he'd murmur into my hair. She can't hurt you anymore. But she could. Not the way she wanted to. Not by taking Ryan, because Ryan had never really been mine to lose. But by reminding me of every insecurity I'd ever had. Every reason I'd ever believed I wasn't enough. 2 weeks after the breakup, Ryan called. Not texted. Called. I stared at his name on my screen for 3 rings before I answered. Hey. Hey. His voice sounded different. Tired. Can we meet? Just to talk. I promise I'm not going to. He stopped. I just need to say some things. And then I'll leave you alone. For good if that's what you want. I thought about saying no. Thought about protecting the fragile peace I'd built. But closure wasn't about peace. It was about endings. Where? There's a coffee shop. On 5th. The one with the blue awning. I know it. An hour? I'll be there. I arrived first. Chose a table by the window where I could see him coming. Ordered a latte I didn't plan to drink. Ryan walked in exactly on time, which was so perfectly him that I almost laughed. He looked better than the last time I'd seen him. Less desperate, more grounded. But there was something new in his eyes. Something I couldn't name. He sat across from me, ordered black coffee, and then just looked at me for a long moment. You look good, he finally said. You look tired. I am tired. He ran a hand through his hair. The same nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About me. About the way I've treated you. Ryan. Let me finish. Please. He waited until I nodded, then continued. When we were kids, you were just there. Part of the furniture. My parents' friend's daughter. Someone I was supposed to look out for. And then somewhere along the way, you weren't a kid anymore. You were this. He stopped, searching for words. This person. Smart and funny and beautiful. And I noticed. I noticed and I panicked. Panicked. Because if I admitted that I noticed, then everything would change. I'd have to be different. I'd have to. He blew out a breath. I'd have to be someone who deserved you. I stared at him. You think you don't deserve me? I know I don't. Not the way I was. Dating all those girls, treating you like an afterthought. I told myself I was protecting you, that you were too good for me, that you deserved better. But really, I was just scared. Scared of what? Scared of needing someone. His voice dropped. Scared of being vulnerable. Scared that if I let myself love you, really love you, then you'd have the power to destroy me. The words hit me like a physical blow. All those years. All that pain. And this was what had been underneath. You hurt me, I said quietly. You hurt me so many times, Ryan. And I let you. Because I thought if I was patient enough, understanding enough, selfless enough, you'd finally see me. I see you now. I know. I wrapped my hands around my latte, drawing warmth from the cup. But seeing me isn't the same as choosing me. And you had so many chances to choose. You're with Jake. It wasn't a question. Yes. Do you love him? I thought about Jake. His patient hands. His kind eyes. The way he'd held me through my nightmares without asking for anything in return. I'm learning to, I said. And I think that's enough. Ryan nodded slowly. His coffee sat untouched in front of him. There's something else, he said. Something I should have told you a long time ago. What? That night at my penthouse, the party where you and Jake officially met. I saw you. Across the room. You were laughing at something someone said, and you had flour on your cheek from baking, and you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I remembered that night. Remembered Jake approaching me, introducing himself, making me laugh. Remembered Ryan watching from across the room. His expression unreadable. I wanted to come to you, Ryan continued. I wanted to walk across that room and take you somewhere quiet and tell you everything I'd been too scared to say. But then Jessica showed up. She needed me. Or she said she did. And I let myself get pulled away because it was easier than facing you. Easier. Easier than admitting that I'd wasted 5 years. That I'd been a coward. That I'd let the best thing in my life slip through my fingers because I was too afraid to hold on. His voice cracked. I'm not asking you to leave, Jake. I'm not asking you to give me another chance. I'm telling you the truth. Because you deserve that much. The cafe was quiet around us. Other conversations fading into background noise. I looked at Ryan. Really looked at him. And for the first time, I didn't see the boy I'd loved. I saw a man who'd made mistakes. Who'd hurt people. Who was finally, painfully learning to be better. Thank you, I said. For telling me. Is that all? What else is there? Ryan's smile was sad. I don't know. I was hoping you'd tell me. I stood up, slinging my bag over my shoulder. I think you know what you need to do, Ryan. It's just not with me. He stood too, shoving his hands in his pockets. What if I can't do it without you? Then you'll learn. I touched his arm, briefly, gently. You're stronger than you think. You just never had a reason to find out. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. This time, it didn't feel like running away. It felt like letting go. Months passed. Spring melted into summer, and summer bled into fall. The bakery thrived. My wedding cake business took off after a glowing review in a local magazine. And I hired 2 part-time employees to keep up with demand. Jake and I settled into something comfortable. Not perfect. We argued about stupid things, left dishes in the sink, occasionally snapped at each other after long days. But underneath all of it was a foundation of trust and respect that I'd never had with anyone before. I stopped checking Jessica's social media. Stopped flinching when someone mentioned Ryan's name. Stopped waking up in the middle of the night with my heart racing. Healing, I learned, wasn't a destination. It was a practice. Something you chose every day. Ryan, from what I heard through mutual friends, was doing the work. He'd started seeing a therapist. Cut back on the revolving door of girlfriends. Spent more time with his family, less time at parties. We didn't talk. Not directly. But occasionally, I'd see him in the background of someone's photo, smiling, relaxed, different somehow. And I'd feel a twinge of something. Not longing. Not regret. Just the quiet acknowledgement that some people were meant to be chapters, not endings. On the first anniversary of the day Jake asked me to be his girlfriend, he took me back to the theater where we'd had our first date. The same movie wasn't playing, of course. But he'd bought out the entire auditorium, just the 2 of us, surrounded by empty seats and the soft glow of the screen. I wanted to recreate the moment, he said, but better. No ex-boyfriends. No drama. Just us. I laughed. But my heart was pounding. What are you up to, Jake? Patience. The movie started, some romantic comedy I'd mentioned wanting to see months ago. But I couldn't focus on the screen. Jake was fidgeting beside me, checking his phone, adjusting his jacket. About 20 minutes in, the movie paused. The lights came up slightly. Jake turned to face me, and I saw that he was holding a small velvet box. What is this? My voice came out as a whisper. I wanted to do this somewhere meaningful, he said. Somewhere that reminded me of the first time I realized I could lose you. And the first time I realized I didn't want to. Jake, wait. Let me finish. He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring, elegant, understated, perfect. You told me once that you were learning to love me. And I've been hoping every day since that you never stop learning. Because I love you. Not the idea of you, not the version of you that I built up in my head. You. The one who bakes pastries at 3 in the morning because she can't sleep. The one who cries at dog commercials. The one who's braver than she knows. Tears were streaming down my face. I couldn't see the ring clearly, but I didn't need to. I don't know what the future holds, he continued. I don't know if we'll fight or fail or fall apart. But I know I want to try. With you. Every day. For the rest of my life. He took a shaky breath. Will you marry me? The theater was silent. The frozen movie screen cast soft light across Jake's face. Nervous, hopeful, terrified. I thought about Ryan. About the years I'd wasted waiting for someone who couldn't choose me. about the pain and the heartbreak and the long, slow process of learning to let go. And then I thought about Jake. About the way he'd sat beside me in the same theater, holding my hand without demanding anything. About the way he trusted me to choose what was best for me. Even if that wasn't him. Yes, I said. Yes, yes, yes. Jake's face broke into the widest smile I'd ever seen. He slid the ring onto my finger. Perfect fit, because of course he'd found out my size without me knowing. And then he kissed me. The movie started playing again, forgotten. We stayed in that theater for hours, holding each other, talking about the future, laughing at nothing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for something to happen. It was already happening. 2 years later. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. None of the excess that had defined Ryan's parties or Jessica's social media. We held it in the bakery, among the smell of fresh bread and the soft glow of string lights. I wore a simple white dress. Jake wore a gray suit he'd agonized over for weeks. My mother cried. His mother cried louder. And in the back row, almost hidden in the shadows, Ryan sat alone. He'd RSVP'd yes to my surprise. I'd almost uninvited him, had written the email twice before deleting it. But Jake had said, he was part of your story. He deserves to see the ending. Ryan didn't cause any trouble. He congratulated us quietly during the reception, shook Jake's hand, and kissed my cheek with a gentleness that belied all the years of distance. You look happy, he said. I am. Good. He stepped back, hands in his pockets, the way he'd stood on my doorstep all those months ago. That's all I ever wanted for you. I didn't know if that was true. Didn't know if Ryan had ever wanted anything for me that didn't also serve himself. But standing there, in my bakery, with my husband's hand on my back and my whole life ahead of me, I decided it didn't matter. The past was the past. The future was unwritten. And for the first time, I was excited to write it. Jessica sent a friend request the week after the wedding. I let it sit in my inbox for 3 days, then deleted it without opening. Some doors, I'd learned, were meant to stay closed. And some people, no matter how much you'd loved them, were meant to become strangers with memories. I was okay with that. I was more than okay. I was finally, fully, completely free.